just because from the sound of it. So I get a little excited because it's something that a color used at one time.
1936,
Yeah,
you said your last known Collier.
yeah. Last known living collier.
Living
Well,
Collier,
that they know. So he was probably a collier. He could have been a collier's helper, could have been a son. His father was a collier, and he could have been a lot of their children, sons, were collier helpers. Because
I gotta say,
he looks
'cause
pretty old there.
there was
so-
no iron furnaces running at that time.
No, no,
That's the date
no,
that he,
yeah.
okay.
But Hopewell furnace is pretty well preserved,
Yeah,
and they have a charcoal burn there every year, a
Right.
couple times a year. And so there's more pictures to this. It shows them constructing that, and you actually see an old truck in the background. So you know it's not real old. So I'm not sure where this picture is taken from, but that's a typical charcoal hearth under construction. They used around 30 cords of wood, and it produced about 100 bushels of charcoal out of each hearth. And I think one charcoal wagon would haul 1,000 pounds back to the furnace. So they try to keep the coal dry instead of hot when they're taking it back, because sometimes they'll catch on fire.
yeah.
And I just found an article in a newspaper, in the Show State Forest, there's a road called Hogshead Road. And they actually explained where the Hogshead Road got its name from. And it's from the wagoneers hauling charcoal back. They would, I guess they would hang hogshead on trees, and they were filled full of water. So when these wagons would catch on fire, they could roll up to those hogsheads and then throw the water in. So it was mentioned like 3 different times, decades in the newspaper, and it was really interesting, how that got its name.
Yeah.
And how they got around the charcoal not burning. And there is newspaper articles saying that the wagons burned up from the charcoal, or the horses got away from them, and the horses died, and the wagon flipped, and all kinds of accidents. But you can see this one here has, I forget the actual name of them, but there's 3 tiers. There's a tier here, tier there, and a tier there. There's names for each tier, but I can't remember what they are. And then you can actually see the leaf and the soil being put over at the top of the hearth.
They covered that whole thing with it.
They covered that whole thing would be black like this, yes. And then they, so this is probably this looks very large. It might be like 35 or 40 foot in diameter. So they use like I said, 30 cords of wood for that.
They're bigger than what I thought.
So I think they use they say an acre of wood a day to run the furnace, I think.
Acre a day.
Yeah, acre a day. Yeah. It's like the old iron furnace masters say they don't have enough land.
Right.
They can never have enough land. That's why they always had like 20, 30,000 acres of forest to run the furnaces.
That's one of the things when this furnace down here, when they shut it down, that was one of the problems. From what I understand, they were hauling lumber from all the way from like Everett.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of it was cut off around here.
yeah. They go about every 20 years or 25 years,
Yeah.
and then they come back and harvest
Right.
for the next charcoal. So this is a thing I did a long time ago. It just shows the iron furnaces in Michaux State Forest. Now there's other furnaces outside the boundary of the state forest, but they're just the major ones. This big pond, conservatory bought that, or I guess they bought the land for it, but they're in control of that, but it's since collapsed I was there the other year, and you can climb up on top, and then the brickwork is really just perfect going down.
Mhm.
But it's since, I'm not sure if that structure is still there, but the whole one, both sides collapsed, you know, the rock.
Yeah.
So,
And this
it's a
one
real,
down
it's a
here,
real shame.
this one down here from the top down quite a ways is really good.
Yeah,
The bricks all in there. Some fell out down at the bottom where your bowl is,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
more like a crucible down there. There's some of those that fell out, but you're looking down in the top, the brick is really nice down.
yeah, when my brothers and me were little, at Pine Grove Furnace, you could actually go inside the furnace and we used to chase each other around
Yeah.
into the furnace.
Yeah.
But now it's all bricked up and fence around it. You can't go in there and play anymore.
Tony won't go in the one down here, he's worried about snakes.
Oh, I saw a snake yesterday. I was out, I was out kayaking. I restored this old 1950 kayak, and then I took a little walk on the trail. Old black snake. I don't know. He seemed like he was 20 feet long.
Yeah.
And then earlier this summer, I was out hiking. 4 rattlesnakes in one day.
Really?
Yeah. One was just right off the trail. I heard this leaf going.
Mhm.
And there wasn't any other sound in the woods. And they were all in 3 of them were in the, I guess they call it a black phase. They're all black.
Yeah.
And then one was a regular looking rattlesnake. And then I can go all year and not see any.
Yeah. I don't mind the black snakes, them rattlesnakes, though.
Yeah, they're a little tricky. So there, I just put that in. That's Pine Grove Furnace. There's the mansion, paymaster's house. Years ago, back in the 1800s, there was a couple bad guys came in here and blew up the safe, and they blew out the windows,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they took everything on a wagon and took it up into the mountains, into a cave, and they caught them. But then there's the stone stack right there, and then there's the metal.
This stack for the wood?
Stack. Yeah, I don't know.
They're awful high.
But that's a metal one there, I think. This used to be, I think that's the casting house there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what this is building. The cooling sheds are back there, so the ramp would be back this way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing there. The only thing that is there now is the stack, of course. So these are a series of 30 maps I made. They're based off of LiDAR mapping. I don't know if I have some LiDAR mapping pictures in here. So number 1 is up towards Boiling Springs. Can you see okay? And then Caledonia Route 30 is here, and Waynesboro is down here. So this is all the South Mountain Range coming up through here. This is the Cumberland Valley, and that's Adams County over there. So I numbered each map, and I even named each map, and then I listed how many harfs are in each map, and how many color huts are on each map. And that's based off of what I could see on LiDAR. When I'm out hiking, sometimes I'll color huts aren't on LiDAR, or I can't see them on LiDAR, but they show up when I'm out there. So these numbers down here change every month or so. I just write them in pencil over here and then change them, because I already erased a hole in here. So I decided I'll wait 6 months and then erase, because it's just vellum and you can poke a hole in it pretty quick. So total, I came up with 7,704 charcoal hearts
Wow.
in this
Wow.
whole area. And then 283 color huts. Now, they say each color had 7 or 10 charcoal hearts that he tended to. So that would mean this number here should be around 700, a little over 700. But I can only see 283 on LiDAR.
Right.
Some of them they're so faint, or I'm pretty good at reading LiDAR. I can pick up, color hut that's on a hearth
Yeah.
and stuff on LiDAR now.
It's always black there, I guess, right? Charcoal hearth.
Yeah, mostly, yeah. So there's, Kings, I don't know if you know where Kings Gap is, Cumberland Valley. There's, that's map number 6. Now the little white circles are the charcoal hearths, and the triangles here are collier huts. And the ones filled in black are the ones I located out in the field. And then I have a little dashed line there with the date. That's the date that I hiked that particular day. So right here, there's 3 collier huts right there, and the one collier hut is built right next to a homestead ruins, and actually used the foundation rocks for the chimney. And it's built right. I have a slide in here that will show that better. And down here, there's 5 collier huts in a group, and 1 collier, or 1, what did I say? 5 huts in a group, and then 1 hearth. It's the only one I've ever found that has 5 collier huts in 1 group.
You think there was more than one guy making that charcoal hearth at that point?
I don't know. And they all have chimney rocks,
Oh,
like chimney stones.
yeah.
So you would think if they built the first guy built a hut, and the second guy came in and built a hut, he would take the stones off that first hut
Right,
and put it in his hut.
right.
Because the first hut probably all flattened out.
Mm-hmm.
But they all have stones, so I'm not sure what that means, but that's where I saw a bear in there, so. It was getting too close to I was out there like.
How long do they stay? I don't know. Does anybody here that don't know exactly what a collier is?
Collier,
Yeah.
we tended to charcoal.
Right,
His job, well, they had wood cutters, wood choppers, I guess they're called wood choppers. They would cut the wood into 8-foot lengths and haul it to the charcoal hearths. And then the collier, his job was to stack it, cover it up with soil and leaves, set it on fire, and tended to it so it didn't ignite flames.
Right.
So it turns into charcoal, and then he would rake it out and let it cool before the wagons came. And
They stayed up there for how long in time?
I think they say around 14 days. I think for
14
one
days.
hearth to get completely,
Did they come down, or did they just move to another spot at that point?
Well, they
Come down out of the mountain, in other words.
they may have, yeah, and they probably worked in the same area. They had 10 hearths in this area with the hut, and then they just moved, maybe a half mile down in the mountains, built another hut, and did 10 more hearths. But that was their job. I think they got paid by the bushel. I think, I'm not sure. But it wasn't much money back then.
No.
So that's Laurel Lake area, if you know where Laurel Lake is, right there. And
Chimney
the pole steeple.
Pole
Pole steeple, yeah. There's quite 4 dual huts. There's a dual hut here, and there. So that means they're within 25 or 30 feet from each other. And both of these have chimney remains, and both of those do. These are 2 really good ones there. I forget about those. I don't know what those are.
Looks like there's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot in this area here. I was going to go hiking tomorrow. There's a collier hut up here, which I don't show. I found on LiDAR. I think it's up in here someplace. Yeah. Or back. All right, that might be it right there. I didn't get to yet. Yeah, the ones that are open, I didn't discover yet. So there's the Pine Grove Furnace area. There's the, where are we at here? Fuller Lake right there. So you can see our cabins right right back in here someplace. That Collier hut's behind our cabin, so it's right there. And I did a lot of early hiking in there because when you're in high school, driving, you can only go so far with walking before you have to come back to eat. So I did a lot of hiking in there. And then this area here that has 3 Collier huts there. And then in between those 2 huts is I call it an outdoor chimney. There's a whole pile of stones that look like they made an outdoor chimney, maybe for cooking outside or something, I don't know. And there's 2 dual huts there. And then this area, the old Shippensburg Road, there's a whole mess of huts in there. You could probably walk to all of those in maybe 40 minutes to see all of those. And those are pretty good huts in there. I'm surprised that there's huts in there and there's no huts down in here. And there's no huts, around the furnace there. Of course, they live, it was a village, so I guess all the trees are probably all used up for firewood. So this is again, the 30 maps that I've shown. And this column here and that column is the hearths that I field verified and the huts I field verified. So if you go down here to Pine Grove, map 11, there's 711 hearths, and I found 306 of them. And I found 29 out of the 31 huts. And then you see up here at Worthing Springs area, I need to find 4 more huts up in that area. And of course another big one there, 549 hearths on that map. A lot of times on these, especially up at Worthing Springs and some of the ones over towards Bendersville area, a lot of the farmers made their own made charcoal for the furnace on their own land. So there's probably not so many Collier huts, next to the fields that are there now. And this one here, I just I wanted to see how much space a 30 cords of wood would take up on a charcoal hearth. So I made these rectangles that would simulate a cord of wood. So it fills up all the way around the hearth. And down here, I just calculated the cord wood for each tier. So it comes out to 31 cords. Because 30 cords is the base, so I had to calculate the 26-foot width. Of course, there's a lot of charcoal hearths that are around 40 feet or so it would take a lot more cord wood. So these are the typical features of a hearth. So I measured the cut height and the fill height, and I measure the cut area right here. I measure from there to there, and I measure from the transition area, which is where the cut and the fill lines intersect each other. And then I take the average of that to get the average of the hearth. And I do a little hole there to see how deep the charcoal is, someplace on the hearth. A lot of times I don't find any charcoal, other times it's 12 inches deep. It varies. So over here, let me see here. So they have these, combine those two together, the average hearth is between 31 and 40 feet, is the majority of them. There's only 10 of them that are 46 and 50. Those are really huge. I mean, you're looking at those, they're just enormous. And then, as I locate these hearths, they're sometimes all different, and than a regular hearth. So I made this drawing. So they have a typical hearth, a cut area and the fill area here, a hearth with boulders that are around it, a hearth that has a haul road. This one goes straight to the middle, but a lot of times they're above the cut area or below the fill area. This is a hearth that has a test ore pit on. Those are easy to spot on the LiDAR. And that was, the test pit was dug after the last firing of the hearth, usually, because it would have been filled in if they needed to use it again. And then this is the hearth of an unknown use, which I have no idea what it's used for. But just think of a regular hearth that you see out in the woods, and it's elevated about this deep over the whole hearth. Mm-hmm. And I did a test pit through 2 of the hearths for DCNR. I dug every foot for 30-some feet, and I was pulling out chunks of charcoal and some with bark on. And you wouldn't think the bark would still be on after 100 years, but I sent it to DCNR because they requested it, but I never heard back from them. So that's a state, I guess.
So they have a good feel for this? I mean, they have a lot of information on it? Do you see
The
it?
state? No, I don't have anything. I try to stay away from them.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Now, they drove through that thing, you got an opening on both sides?
Yeah, a lot of times I found some just the other week that the whole road goes right through the middle, right through the transition area, right, you know, where
Right.
the cut and the fill
Yeah.
intersect. A lot of times they're below it too. And then up here, I just showed that one. They would dig up rocks and just throw it over the top or over the side. And this is the actual one I found that has a rock wall, retaining wall on the fill side. I find some of those, not a whole lot of those. I have pages that I write down each hearth where it falls in these categories. And then this is the hearth of the Boro pit. They would excavate this soil out here, and that would be used for the covering of the hearth. They'd run out of leaf and soil material, and they needed more dirt, so they would do that. And this is a Collier hut that's built on the hearth. And that's the same that they would, after the last firing of the hearth. And this is like a berm around the outside. That's full of charcoal in there. And you can see the typical hearth over there is 624 of them are typical. So that's the majority of what you find. Kind of boring. Just, I like to find the ones that are a little bit different. So I do a charcoal, see how deep the charcoal is. So that ranges from 4 to 8 inches, majority of them. And then that cut and fill heights, the fill height is up here at 1 foot, like 270 or so. And then the cut area, majority of them are 3 feet. That's 240. So it's just something I measure each time I'm out there. So this is the life of a charcoal hearth, kind of like the same stuff I was showing before. 30 cords of wood around it. And then they would build like a log cabin chimney here. And that's where they would fire the charcoal hearth after it was completed. And then over here, I show it there, then the wood slowly stacked around.
Oh, so they built a wooden chimney in the middle before they put the wood up, huh?
Yeah. I guess they probably wouldn't build it all the way up. They'd build it until they got the first tier, then they'd build, extend it up, because it'd probably fall over if
Yeah.
they didn't have it stable enough. So there's the 3 tiers, there's the chimney, and then this is covered. I had those smoke holes coming out. They would have to cover these up, if it got flamed, so the wood wouldn't burn. They wanted it to stay as charcoal. So they make a wooden ladder there to, in order to fire that. They fill that full of little sticks and stuff and then just set it on fire. And it would,
So they fired it in the top.
yeah, I guess they covered it. So then it would burn, but it would burn out, I guess.
Mm.
It would burn out. And then this is just charcoal being cooled out. So this is,
They had to show that stuff on, the sides on those charcoal wagons were pretty high.
yeah, they use bushel baskets. So I don't know how they, yeah, they use like, just like a regular reed
You
basket.
think they winched that up on there somehow, a basketful at a time, or?
They might have had a guy on top, a helper, and lift it up. A bushel of charcoal probably wouldn't weigh that much.
No, probably not. It's not very heavy.
So this is a ratio of color huts to charcoal hearths. This is something I dreamed up. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's based off of LiDAR. So I measured between each hearth, and I measured this distance between each color hut. It's a little confusing to explain, but this red color hut here had 10 charcoal hearths, all in red, these red circles there. 25 years later, this blue one would come along and build his hut, and he would have 10 hearths here in blue, and he would use 2 of the red ones, the previous 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same with this light blue one, light blue one here. He would have 10 more, but he would be using some of the blue from this guy.
Yeah.
So, in other words, this hearth here was fired 3 times, twice, and so forth. So, a lot of hearths were used multiple times over multiple years. So that's what I was trying to accomplish there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guide to the map up there, it helps. And then I calculated how many, 25 to 50 yards, how many hearths were between that distance and the time it took to walk that far. So that took 1 minute to walk 25 to 50 yards. And then I wanted to see, just the time it would take to go from hearth to hearth, and it really wasn't that much time. It was only a couple minutes to get.
You mean to check on?
Yeah, he's working on this one. This one's fired, and then he's working on this one to get that one fired. And he sees something going on over here that he didn't like, he could, walk back in 2 minutes and fix it. So that's kind of what I was getting at there. They're kind of fun to do, but man, they take days to draw. There's my little hiking buddy. He's on one of the larger color huts at 29 feet. So if you measure 29 feet in here, it's pretty big. When you're out in the woods, it doesn't seem that big because everything's vast out there anyway. But you can see how big the chimney stones are. That's the remains of the chimney stones.
Hmm.
And then there's another one of those. I have those bigger maps over here. One to look at. So there's a typical charcoal hearth trail running through it. In fact, that's the Post Steeple Trail. So you can see the charcoal, black charcoal through there. This is the floor of the hearth here. And then there's the cut area up there, probably like 2.5 to 3 feet. And then this is like the transition area, right where it intersects there. And it measures from there to here, and then from there to there.
They had to get them pretty level then, huh?
Yeah, they were pretty level. So there's one built on the hillside. So there's the bottom of the hearth, and then there's the hillside going up. So it didn't really have a cut height. So, the hillside's the cut area. So this is an odd is a hearth with the color hut on it. So back there's the cut area of the hearth, and here's the floor of the hearth. There's the color hut right here. So there's the chimney. This is the roof mound of the chimney, or the hut, and then the log roof trench comes around this way. It's oval in shape. I've only found like 3 or 4 oval color huts. Most of them are all round. So up here, 25 feet away, there's another color hut. It has chimney remains too. That's oval in shape too. So it makes me think that the same color built both of them. If you like oval huts, I guess.
He made that low channel around there to keep the water out of the hut, huh? Is that what that?
The log roof trench.
Yeah, trench.
Yeah. It's where the soil came. I think I have it in here. Soil came down over the roof, over the decades.
Okay.
I think I explained it.
Yeah, okay.
This is the hike I did on private land. It just shows the stuff I was doing. There's the hearth of an unknown use. It has a mound goes all the way across the surface of the hut, or the hearth. Filled full of charcoal and stuff. So, like I said, I started at 147 hearth. I'm at 1,166 and almost 1,200 pages of all these drawings. I got a lot of boxes of paper.
Yeah, apparently.
My wife's not too happy with all my paperwork. Like, there's another haul road, goes above the hearth. I like to find these, because you can go from hearth to hearth. And they're just, I can do like 10 hearths in a couple hours. And then over here's a borrow pit. A lot of rock around that hearth there, that the colors done it. So you can see I'm on page 661 there, and you have the hearth 821 there. So this is behind Pole Steeple, and that, for some reason in that area around Pole Steeple, there's a lot of borrow pits in that area, and they show up really clearly on LiDAR. And I like to find these, and well, all 3 of those are good examples. Because the little arrows are the direction that I hiked. But say this 435 is where is that at? Right there. So if I happen upon 435, if I'm up hiking, and see on LiDAR it has a big protrusion there and just a little bump there on LiDAR, and I actually see that in the field, I know where I'm at that exact hearth, and it helps me, just to make sure where I'm at the correct hearth as I'm hiking along. Sometimes I'll be, I'll pick up another one that, like, too far ahead of myself, behind myself. So it helps if they match up. So this is between Fuller and Laurel Lake along the Appalachian Trail. So they actually built the Appalachian Trail on a charcoal haul road. As you can see, all these charcoal hearths along the Appalachian Trail. And there's a color hut there for all these hearths there. And a lot of them have modern day stone firing on them for the hikers build. And then this one here, in that area there, has remains of a split rail fence. The only thing that's left is just the zigzag stone where they threw it up against the fence. So there's a LiDAR map there, and then there's my hiking map on the right. So I think you can probably see it pretty good. So there's a color hut there. You can see a donut shaped, and there's one there, and then there's one down here. Now this one here, I just happened to be standing across the creek there, and happened just to be standing there, and there's a color hut right there at my feet. That happens a lot. I just stand and look around, and there's a hut there. come and get me or something, I don't know, but. And then there's a creek, that's the creek that runs down through here. And up here is a hearth of an unknown use. So that's a typical light ornament. That's all I use. I just print out a map like this before on each hike, and then that's all I use when I'm hiking. Because you can, like this ridge here, you can see out in the field, and this one here you can really see because it's a little steep in there because it's all dark. That's a mountain or a hillside. Up here's a quarry. You can't miss that. I hiked up to that. So there's a lot of landmarks on that, and that's pretty easy to hike because you have the creek and you have this whole road going up that way. Here's another loop trail that I did. There's dual color huts there. There's another hut up there, and this hearth of an unknown use is right there. You can see that it's like a bump that comes out on the screen. It's like because it's elevated. And most of the hearths are like, you know, they have a shadow line around one side. And of course the color huts are a little bit smaller than the hearths. A lot of these ones all in here I've found on the previous hike. Here's another, I don't know if you ever heard the Buck Ridge Trail in that area. It's above Laurel Lake. So this is a good example of borrow pits. So there's a borrow pit there, one there, and one there. And these color your huts here you can't miss your shape. There's one over here that you can't really see. But this one here I hiked off trail and I saw the pit there first, and then I knew the hearth was right by that pit. So there's, I made this other one here, Life of a Collier Hut. So there, he's constructing the hut. Collier, it's like throw up logs, and then there, put soil over the outside, and then the stone chimney. And then decades later, it starts to collapse. So the soil kind of runs off the peak, erodes off from weather, rain, and so forth. And that produces the roof mound. Roof depression. Which I'll show you down here at the bottom. Then it just decays more on these two pictures here. And there, it's almost abandoned. And this is what we see today. So you have a long roof trench, chimney, and this is the roof depression, roof mound, and the other end of the log roof trench. So the roof mound is this soil coming down, laying in there. And then the roof depression is that apex, is that the right word? Apex. Well, there's no soil in that peak. There's no soil to drop down, so it makes a big hole in the middle of the hearth, or middle of the hut. So it's pretty obvious when you're looking at it to see all the features. Oops. Let's double click here. So this is map. When did I do this? It's 5 years ago I did this map. There's Fuller Lake and Laurel Lake, and I just wanted to show where the Collier huts were located in that area. So I made these little squares showing the configuration of each Collier hut. The chimney, everything's pointing north, so the chimney remains are all over the place. And this one here, you can see that the rocks fell in all the way across the hut. So I did that, then I found more Collier huts on the back side of this drawing. Oops, hit the wrong. On the back side of this drawing, I added more squares and more Collier huts. And you can see these ones that are black don't have chimney stones, or at least I can't see them without digging. Sometimes I'll bring a little shovel along and I can poke it and you know, you get that sound of a rock. So then filled up that page, and then I made a whole nother page. And then there's a couple, there's an oval hut there. So right now I think I'm on the second row of a new sheet. It's just like a quick reference if I wanted to look for something in particular. Then I got me to thinking about how many color huts are by streams. In fact, several people had asked me about how many, if they're built along streams, because how do they get the water, you know, for cooking? Well, they never took a bath, so you didn't have to worry about that. So I made 3 categories: by the creek, the stream nearby, and a seasonal one. So, of course, the creek, they're just built right next to it, and the creek nearby was, you know, a couple minute walk or something. And a seasonal would be just a, you know, winter runoff or something like that. And then here's the one I showed earlier, the 3 huts, and the one built next to the cabin or homestead rooms. You can see the foundation of the cabin there, and that's right off one of their trails, so it's like really easy to find. And then, well, I already went through all that, features of the Collier hut. But this is a good picture of the Collier hut there. The chimney remains. This is the roof mound here, and then the roof trench goes around that way. There's 3 huts. Well, the other hut you can see from this hut, but it's on the other hillside, but you can see it. And then I found one just by, again, just standing next to a creek. I found, just looking down there it was. There's that grouping of 5 Collier huts there, typical stuff I draw up. You can see this roof depression is in a different area. This is a kidney shaped. This one doesn't have one, but it has a doorway. Doorways are kind of like a flat area. The trench goes around, but then it kind of flattens out. So I just assume it's a doorway, but I don't know. There's some more. These, well, that's where I saw snakes, rattlesnakes in there. And 2 huts in there. This is at the Pine, what's that, Long Pine Reservoir. I printed out a LiDAR map a couple months ago and finally got to this site. But it has 5 charcoal harps up here. They're all built next to each other. I've never seen 5 of them together. The most I ever saw was just 2 built really close together, but these are 5 of them up there. So I'm gonna take the metal detector back there again someday. Mm-hmm. It's a long uphill hike up through there. I was waiting until the winter months. So there's my running list of harps and huts. And you can see 11th of December, I found all these huts. And then I make a running list of borrow pits and ones that have Collier huts on the hearth, and ones that have ore pits on the hearth, ones with rocks inside and outside. All my categories are all in there. So if I wanted to look up, you know, ones that have borrow pits, I can look at those sheets. So there's like, probably up to, I think I'm up to like 40 some sheets here or something like this. So there's two other ones. Just, this is an earlier one, and that's over 1,000. There's just 2 other Collier huts. This one here is on a level floor of the forest, because there's no roof man, log roof trench or anything, it's just flat. These are huts that I found near ruins. This is the same one that I showed earlier, the 3 huts. But there's an oddity, it has these stone piles. And they're all in a straight line. I measured from each one, just with my feet. But I have no idea. And there's a split rail fence there. But I want to get back in that area after vegetation dies back to see what else I can find. This is the old Dahl Farm. I found on an old map. It was built back in the 1700s. There's the foundation, and then there's the hut. Again, he used the rock to build his chimney. There's the spring house there, or spring. But yeah, I parked my truck off one of the gravel roads, and I found the spring within 6 or 8 minutes. And then, of course, the foundations were just like a minute away. So that was pretty cool find. They had a sawmill, the house, a barn, and a couple sheds. I found an old tax record for it. Lewis the Robber, I don't know if you ever heard of Lewis the Robber.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the first places he robbed. He robbed the Dahl sawmill. I'm not sure where the sawmill is located.
Mm-hmm. I think he was captured in Carlisle or
Yeah, broke out
something.
of prison.
Yeah.
This area, it's all full of barberry, so it's like a pain to get up through. So this is the one I did for you guys at that Bear Valley Road.
I was up in there.
Yeah. Don't go in February 23rd. Did I mention that to you or something?
Yeah, I think you had a lot of ticks or something.
I had like a zillion ticks on me.
In February.
Yeah. It was like 70 degrees. I checked it, and I have it over here. It was mid-70s. And I had a change of clothing, and I changed my clothing after the second hike because it was so warm, I was sweaty. And I took my shirt off, t-shirt off, it came out inside out. It was covered with ticks inside. So I had one stuck on me. And I'm driving home and I'm still pulling ticks. They're crawling up my arms and stuff and my legs. And I'm just throwing them out the window. I don't know how many I had in there, but I've never had that many ticks in all my life.
Yeah, I got a bunch of pictures from over there.
Yeah, so I went back that huge water tower, parked at the first game commission parking lot. There's a deep haul road, ravine, deep gully haul road going up. And I picked up that horse. And up here, there's a bowl-shaped area. It's all flat ground. And then there's a hearth right there. It's level to the ground. And then there's the Cullagher hut. So there's a picture of the Cullagher hut. It doesn't really show up very well, but there's the chimney remains right there. It's pretty flat. It doesn't have a lot of, it has the features, but they're not pronounced, I guess. So this is a really nice example of chimney remains that are pretty high, probably as high as this desk. Those are nice to find in the wintertime because you can see them from a distance and you can easily pick them out. This is a nice one here too. There's a little bit of surface chimney rock there. There's the log roof trench going around here. Okay. So there's 2 more. You see a vast number of rocks at that chimney. And this one here is chimney fell into the hearth, right into the hearth there. This one's built on the hillside. The log roof trench is back down this way and behind the chimney there. And that's one I found, I think last year, I guess it was. There's a chimney remains in there. The log roof trenches in here, goes all the way around. But what's unique about this one is the whole, there's rocks all the way around the hut, along the log roof trench for some reason. It's the only one I've ever seen like that. And then there's typical oval hut surface rocks. And that one there looks to be a deer hunter's blind. They stack the rocks up to hide behind. And then, just about done here, but these are ruins when I'm out hiking. I had this project took me 7 years, I think. I hiked to every elevation above 1,500 feet in the Show State Forest. So there's like 106 of them. So I made a map of each hike and then a description, how I got there and what I saw and stuff. So this is my last, I call them high hills that I hiked to, and it's a Stone Warden's Fire Cabin, built in 1925. There's a cistern over here, a cement cistern, and it has the date carved in it. So there's 4 fire tower piers behind this cabin, and the outhouse foundations over here. And that's an old mill pond. That shows up in LiDAR like a sore thumb, just a long rectangular area, and the sawmill ruins are over this way. And this one, I don't know if you've ever been down past South Mountain, Mount Alto, South Mountain area. This is the old Cold Springs, Caledonia Springs Resort. It was a L-shaped resort. It was 3 stories high. It had barn, had horses. They buggied people up from the railroad, I guess at Chambersburg. But it was very popular. Some very well-famous people stayed there back in the day. But there's 3 springs there. They thought the springs were healing. And then the B and C there, those 2 little circles are the log cabin foundations. And then G is the actual hotel rooms. And then this A is this detail here. There's a real big flat area. It's 105 feet long, 38 feet wide. But there's I call it a trough or a trench. It's 28 feet long, 5 feet wide, and 7 feet deep. So I have no idea what it was used for. Anybody have any ideas? And there's what it looks like. It's all rock lined there. So it's a lot of stuff, good stuff was happening at that spot. And that's it. I think that was it.